Hey there, this is Dennis Anyone with Dennis Hensley. It's a podcast about making things up, making things happen, creative people, why they do their thing, how they do their thing, how they keep it going. That's what I love to talk about. I think art and creativity make the tough times bearable, and we're in them now. And how many times have you been like overwhelmed by stuff, and then you'll watch a movie or listen to a piece of music or go to a show and you're like, okay, I think I can keep going. All right. Today, my guest is a filmmaker and a friend of mine. His name is Yen Tan, and he has a new movie out called All That We Love, starring Margaret Cho and Jessie Ferguson. It's going to be one of the opening films at Outfest Next on November 6th, and then it opens that same weekend in various cities across the country. It was lovely, this movie. I got to watch it in advance. I had some friends over. We all really enjoyed it. We had different takes on different characters. It gave us something to talk about, something to think about. It involves love of pets and forgiveness, two topics that I think about a fair amount. And I was happy to have Yen back on the podcast. His previous movies include 1985, Pit Stop, and Ciao, C-I-A-O, Ciao. That was the first film of his that I saw on the festival circuit, and we became friendly after that, and I've loved everything he's done ever since. So before we get to the interview, though, I want to remind you that this podcast is pretty much brought to you by me. I occasionally have some sponsors on there, but mostly it's me. And if you want to support my efforts, keep the podcast going, there are a few things you can do. You can go to DennisAnyone.net and leave a tip in my virtual tip jar. Help me cover my expenses. There's also a tab on there called Buy Me a Coffee, which is just what it sounds like. I always appreciate that. The other thing you can do is I've started a Patreon and a Substack. They're the same content. It's called Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay. It's a spinoff of this podcast in terms of its feeling, the things I like to talk about. But I end every episode, which comes out once a week, with a segment about happiness, tips that I've found that have helped me be happier, what the science shows. I've gotten really into this topic in the last few years, and I love musing about it and thinking about it and learning about it and passing on what I've observed. So just go to Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay on Patreon or Substack. You can subscribe for $5 a month, or you can just follow for free. And occasionally I do post episodes that you can listen to without being a subscriber. I'm trying to build that, and I'm really enjoying it. And I hope you are too. And thanks to the people that have already subscribed. I really appreciate it. And the content is the same on both Patreon and Substack. I want to get a plug in for the Mismatch game. It's coming up in Los Angeles on November 22nd. It's our first Thanksgiving-themed episode ever. We haven't announced our cast yet, but you know who's going to do it, who's already on board? Bruce Valanche, for the first time, is going to do the Mismatch game. So I'm very excited about that. That's November 22nd at 7:30 p.m., earlier than usual. So watch out for that. The other thing you can do if you like this podcast is become a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of a group of shows, queer shows under the Derek and Romaine banner. If you subscribe, you get my show early, and you get all these other great queer shows. So go to DNR Studios to learn about that. And finally, I'm still in the pre-order campaign for Search Party, my new party game. We're trying to get 150 orders by November 15th. We're at 91 right now, so every order counts. We've been monitoring the tariff situation from China, which is where we get our games manufactured. It's up and down, different every day, but we're persevering, and we could use your support. It's a really fun game. You can order a copy for $25, and that includes shipping and support the cause. And it'll be a fun thing to do, to play with your friends around the campfire or whatever you're doing this winter. I think we're going to be able to do it by Christmas. I don't know. It changes day to day, and some days I'm like, what are we doing trying to bring out a game in the middle of this crazy year? But you know what? People need fun. People need diversion. So we're going to bring them Search Party. And to pre-order your copy, go to youdon'tknowmylife.com/search party. All right. I think that's enough of the plugs. It's a lot. Here now is my interview with Yen Tan. Joining me from Austin, Texas, it's my friend, filmmaker Yen Tan. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dennis.
I should say welcome back. You have appeared on these airwaves before, which aren't even really airwaves. But we go way back. We met at a film festival. I'm trying to remember. It was Austin Gay Film Festival in some year. It was definitely a year. It was during a year.
Yeah. Okay, that reminds me now. I met you for the first time at Frameline.
Oh, that's interesting.
2008, 9, maybe, because
that's like that.
Because you, I think I ran in. Yeah, I somehow met you there, and because you came to my screening Ciao back in those days.
I loved Ciao.
And I think we just sort of started talking from that point. And then eventually we sort of caught up in Austin.
Yeah.
Because we were there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Ciao. And I remember it might have been because I remember my boyfriend at the time was a big fan of Ciao, which was a story about two men that meet. One is an Italian person visiting Texas. Mm-hmm. And it was a very kind of a sweet two-hander. And you have a new movie now called All That We Love, starring Margaret Cho and Jessie Tyler Ferguson. I watched it the other night. It was so human and moving and funny, but just like tender and wise. And congratulations. And it's opening this new mini Outfest this coming week when this airs. New Fest, it has a special word, or Outfest something.
Outfest Next.
Outfest Next. Outfest has been like in the wilderness for a while. There was some money problems, but they're coming back, and you're sort of the first movie that shows at Outfest Next. So congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you describe the movie to somebody that knows nothing about it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I feel like it's one of those things that it's not quite a spoiler alert thing, but I feel like people have such a knee-jerk reaction to watching any movies where the animal dies or the dog dies. In this case,
the dog can never die.
And, yeah. So I think in the case of this film, and this is not a spoiler alert, it's about a woman in midlife played by Margaret Cho. Who loses her dog in the beginning of the film. And then it's about how she carries on after that. And and it comes with a sense of reflection on her own life and then on, the relationships with the people in her life.
She has a grown daughter. Mm-hmm. And I've known Margaret since the 90s. And we were quite close friends for a while after we met and then sort of drifted apart as these things happen. But she's always represented youth to me and my youth. And so there's a scene with her and her grown daughter. And at first I think, they're girlfriends. And I'm like, no, she's a mother with a grown daughter. She is the age you are now. Catch up with reality, Dennis. This is where we are.
Yeah. I know.
It's not the 90s, but she does have a youthfulness to her. So it is a bit of a, but this is the age that she is at playing this character, Emma, who is a boss at work. She has like a furnishings line and a catalog, and it's very grown up responsibilities. And Margaret is kind of a revelation in this movie as an actor. Like, she shows you colors that you've never seen in her before. She has funny moments, but that is not what it's about.
Right.
Talk to me about working with her and casting her and how she came to be in the movie.
Yeah. Obviously it's like for me, I didn't know Margaret like you did, and she was very much someone that was kind of like an iconic, person in my life, just seeing like her stand-up movie back in those days in the 90s, I want to say, the first one that I saw.
Yeah.
And then sort of following her career from that point onwards and then seeing her live and all that kind of stuff. And, she's for me was kind of like very formative as a Asian American comic who was very outspoken and just very raunchy and funny and just willing to go there. And that was like that was just, to me, was such a refreshing way of just sort of just viewing like an Asian American sort of celebrity. And so for me, she was just someone that I sort of really admired for a long time. And then so by the time I was, trying to make this film and All That We Love is kind of like went through a really long journey, of from the point of conception to the point of just packaging the film and casting it and so forth. And then there was COVID that sort of delayed everything. And so Margaret was someone that me and my producer was just talking about, people to go out to. And she just sort of came to mind because I felt like, she was also like older, and then she's gone through a lot of life experiences. And I thought the role sort of has a certain kind of funny and sadness to it that I think she's going to respond to, you know, and I had a feeling that she was at a point in her life where tackling something like this was going to be up her alley. And then, you know, and then I think that was pretty much the case, you know, when we sent the materials over to her, and then I finally met her in person and we sort of talked about it, and she, you know, she identified with the character, but she also identified with a lot of the things that the movie explores thematically, you know, like, addiction issues with the ex-husband character and that kind of stuff, and just sort of like a divorced family, and just sort of like characters dealing with midlife stuff. And I think a lot of those kind of stuff really spoke to her. And also, and I think specifically this idea of like having animals in your life and then losing them was something that, you know, is very much, you know, dear and close to her heart. So I think she just totally got it, you know. And
it was a chance for her to be the center of the story and not the comic relief, and like to really carry something. And it was a challenge. I think she would see it as like, okay, I get to sort of really show what I can do with this role. She gets to play drunk, which is fun. How did you work with her natural comedic ability? Were there times where you're like, oh, she could make this really funny, but it doesn't need to be that right now? Did you ever have to be like less funny, Margaret?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an interesting one, just because I feel like I naturally still am more comfortable with tackling with just like non-comedic stuff or just dramatic material in general.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff that needs more humor, I sort of lean on her to sort of make it more interesting, you know, just to make it sort of like, just to punch it up in her own way. And I think that was kind of like the case with Jessie as well, because I think both of them were so much more fluent in that kind of stuff than I am. So I would just ask them to just do their thing, you know, because I think like the for instance, one section that was very much, they just sort of improvised the whole thing and then they went off script, was the photo shoot in the beginning of the film when Jessie is just posing around the motorbike and asking Margaret to take pictures of him. And that whole completely improvised. And they just sort of did such a spectacular job making like what I wrote on the script as like a less than one page sort of moment into this whole thing.
Yeah. And it's part of the marketing. Well, I think a lot of people relate to it. Jessie Tyler Ferguson plays her best friend for many, many years, who's been in her life for a long time. And Margaret's always had gay men as friends. It's been something that's part of who she is. Right. And he's recently lost a partner who passed away, and he's trying to get back out there again. So he's trying to be butch on this motorcycle. You know what? He looked hot. Like it was working. It was, I know it was kind of a comedic bit of somebody like overcompensating. It was kind of was like, he's never been hotter, frankly.
Right. I remember telling Jessie this at some point when we were going through the script and just talking about his character. And I think I sort of randomly blurted out loud that, I want people to watch this and want to fuck you. Like that was kind of like a challenge, you know, in a way, because I think so much of it is people are used to seeing you in a very specific way in Modern Family. I think this was an opportunity to sort of kind of flip that in a way, to just sort of toy with that expectation. Yeah.
His character in Modern Family and Cameron, the relationship was almost aggressively sexless. Like it was almost in your face with its sexlessness. And so seeing a different color of him, that was really nice. I like that you gave the relationship between Emma, Margaret's character, and her gay best friend as much weight as the other relationships in the story. Like they had their own conflicts. They have their own history. There's a beautiful scene where they end up in a hotel together and have a long conversation about things. And like, oftentimes the gay best friend is sort of a sidekick that pops in and fixes the hair or does whatever. Yeah. And it says, you go girl, and then doesn't have their own life. Why was that important to you to explore that relationship?
I mean, I think, you know, me being a gay man, I think that representation is important. And I kind of don't believe in, any characters having just a throwaway part. You know, I think all supporting characters are as crucial as the lead character. And I just kind of wanted to give everyone their right sort of give them space to sort of explore who the character is, and also this idea of kind of like giving them moments to sort of flesh things out, you know.
Yeah.
So it's very much the same what I thought with Jessie's character Stan, and like I was very mindful of what you just said about this sort of like a best friend sort of character, and in this case I wanted to sort of subvert it by, in a way, making his character even more sort of like aggressively. He was really living his life a lot more than Margaret's character, where
right.
I mean, was kind of like very much like stuck in place and sort of going back and being nostalgic and revisiting her past. And Jesse's character is just kind of very much about like, I'm moving on. I'm going to do these things. I'm going to go see people.
Right. I'm getting on the apps and I'm going to end up in a throuple.
Exactly.
With Marcus Deanda, who is an actor that I know.
Yes.
Who was in my first thing I ever directed, a short film called Reunion. He's delicious. Tall and delicious and very nice. And then he's in your movie Pit Stop. He plays one of the leads in your wonderful movie. And I have this memory of you reaching out to me and saying, I think I want to cast this guy Marcus. What's he like? And I'm like, I love him. He's awesome. So I was thrilled to see him in the movie. Talk about Marcus.
I mean, Marcus is lovely. I love Marcus. And, you know, he's just so, I'm always very sort of like, very self-conscious about asking lead actors who have played leads in my previous film to essentially be in one or two scenes in my next films, because sometimes that can sort of backfire in a way if there's like an ego thing and it gets a little bit sensitive, which I totally understand. But Marcus is totally like, doesn't give a shit. Like he's just egoless, very kind, very fun to be around. And I just remember, you know, when he showed up on my set to just do that one scene, I was just kind of like, it was just like seeing an old friend again. And it was just automatically very comfortable and just like very much like, oh, this is like, you know, this is like the way it was when we worked together, and the familiarity of it was just very, very comforting, I found.
Yeah, I didn't get to know him well, but I really liked him, and I like him as an actor and a person. I was happy to see him in there. You co-wrote this. There's another writer credited on this. What were you interested in exploring when you set out to write the script? What was your way?
So my co-writer is Clay Leifer, who's also a writer-director. He made a film called Slash that played at Outfest in, I want to say 2015, 2016, around those years.
Right.
So Clay is someone I've known for a long time. I met him in Dallas, and then, you know, we kind of moved to Austin around the same time together. And Clay is straight and I'm gay. And so like, I think a lot of our kind of like friendship dynamics is kind of built into Emma and Stan and all that we love, you know, just in how we sort of know each other really well. And then we get into these little sort of like quarrels about random shit, you know, that I think in the context of the movie is very important. It's very interesting. I mean, not important, but it's just like things that we were both trying to sort of like, you know, figure out how to work it into the storyline itself. And I sort of like one of the things I knew I was kind of relying on him on when I got him on board to co-write the script with me was like he's much better at dialogue than I am, you know, especially similarly to how I lean on Margaret and Jessie to make things funnier. Like Clay writes funnier dialogue than I do, you know, so I kind of wanted him to bring his skill set into this one. Yeah.
Well, there's a very beautiful texture to it visually too. Like, did you shoot in LA? It's set in LA.
Yep.
It looked like LA, but not in a way. Like, I don't know. Oh, that looks kind of like Runyon, but it's not. Like, it was. There's a diner in the movie. I watched it with a few friends, and we were like, I want to go to that diner right now. Is that diner in LA?
It's in LA, but it's like
we'll drive. I don't care.
Yeah, it's quite a drive, and I can't remember where it is.
It's so cute. The blue booths. Come on.
Yeah.
Those
totally.
blue
it's like
booths are. You want to lick them?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a little bit outside LA, I want to say, because some of these locations were either very far east or far west that I've never been to before, and And I think we kind of shot it all over the place. But I think for me, I was very much interested in kind of like creating like my version of an LA story, and
Yeah.
like I think for you guys who lived there for a while, you have this very sort of specific idea of what LA is,
Right.
And for me, it was very much like the thing I always experience when I'm in LA, like not just beyond sort of like the landscape or the cityscape or what the neighborhoods look like, is like the light there kind of feels different to me.
Yeah.
Like Texas, and I think that was like inherently something that I wanted it to be built into the film, where it feels very warm and comforting.
Yes.
The way I see light there, and so this was kind of like the way I wanted it to be presented in the film, where it kind of feels very there's a very sort of like human sort of feeling to it, and because I also envision the movie as like something that wraps around you like a blanket, like there's something sort of cuddly about the movie, and so I always. Yeah, that was kind of the way I wanted LA to feel like in this movie. It's
very sun-dappled, and it does have a different quality of the light, which I thought was beautiful. You talked about how the sort of instigating event at the beginning of the movie is the loss of this pet. Yeah. And as I was watching it, I was thinking, pets are such a big part of our lives, and certainly in an emotional way. I got my first dog about 9 years ago, the first time I've ever had a pet. He's watching me right now and wondering when it's going to get interesting. But no, but they're not either. The story's all about the pet, or they're just kind of around, or like for as much a part of of our lives as they are, they're not often really shown in a rich way. And this movie really does that, and the loss of it. Do you have experience with pets? Do you have pets that are close to you that you lost, or like that part of the story? Where does it come from?
Yeah, so the dog in the film is named Tanner, right?
Yeah.
Which is on my first dog that I had right before I made Pit Stop. I rescued my first dog, and his name was Tanner. Yeah. And so I had Tanner up until 2013, and that's when he passed away after having him because he was like kind of like a adult by the time I rescued him. He lived about 7 years.
Right.
And so I was really struck by the aftermath of that loss, where I felt very like gutted by it in a way that was like surprising, because it was kind of like, that's a dog, that's a pet. And so it didn't be that profound, but then it ended up being really profound. Yeah. And it inspired the writing of the script, because I thought I haven't really seen a film that captures that sort of feeling of what it's like to lose a pet. I remember at the time after Tanner died, I was like looking for films that sort of address this very specific kind of grief.
Right.
And the closest example I could find at that point was Marley and Me.
That's the one I thought of, but that's not.
Yeah, but I wanted Marley and Me after the dog died. And how do they deal with it?
Right.
So I wrote about it in this way, and then so I mean, just to sort of like contextualize, kind of like the origin story of that too. It sort of even goes further in that in very unexpected ways, because trying to get the film off the ground took many years. So by the time I was getting ready to leave for LA for pre-production of this movie, the second dog that I rescued, Tesla, I had to put him down, because he had cancer, and so I put Tesla down, and then I just flew to LA shortly after that to go into pre-production.
Boom, right into it.
It was just very sort of like in the moment of like dealing with that, and then making this movie about that, was very like, it just kind of like, I don't know. Like I joked that I was method directing for first half of the shoot.
You were dealing with that processing. Not the dog that inspired the writing, but the one that you had as you were trying to get it off the ground. And there, boom, there you are.
Exactly.
I've never lost a pet. I will someday.
Yeah.
And I think about that sometimes, about how I will be. Mm-hmm. I think one of the ways I've tried to sort of gird myself for that is to like never take him for granted. Mm-hmm. I always tell him I'm proud of him for some reason. Mm-hmm. I think because it was not something I heard.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a lot for people to deal with. And I haven't seen a film about it, you know? And so that's it was cool to see, you know, and I was watching with a friend whose dog is much older than mine and is you know, who knows how long they'll have. And my roommate had just put her cat down a week before watching it. So it was a lot of us, you know, but we kept it together. But it's an interesting thing to think about. What advice would you give to someone that has never lost a pet that will probably someday lose a pet?
I think what you're doing is not to say right, but I think this idea of being in the moment and appreciating what you have right now is very important, because it's very easy for us to take it for granted.
Right.
And I mean, I think ultimately it's this idea of like, you know, we kind of, you know, or at least most of us do, we are giving them their best lives.
Yeah.
Right. We have the best intentions and we do all these crazy things for them. And so I think when you lose them, that's just how it is. But it's also kind of okay in the sense that you kind of gave them their best lives.
Yeah.
Right. Because most animals don't get adopted. They don't get rescued. And a lot of them get put down every day. And it's like, you know, that's the way things are. And so for the ones who are, you know, able to, you're able to sort of, you know, have them as in a way your children. I think that's kind of like a gift, you know. And I feel like so once you sort of lose one, you know, I think it's totally normal to grieve and to sort of take your time and stuff. But I also believe in this idea that we kind of have to keep going with it, you know. I think for me, I continue to rescue dogs. I have another one now, you know. So it's like this idea of having dogs in my life is something that I can never, like, I think I'll just have dogs for the rest of my life. You know? So I
think about that too. Like, what's going to happen when I don't have Enzo anymore? Do I get another one and all that stuff? You know, I struggle with feeling like that I was kind of a mistake of a person in the world, you know. But Enzo was made for me. He's the only thing I think in the world that was made for me. Everything else is what I can finagle. Yeah. Do you have a connection with the specific your specific dogs in that way that you felt like, okay, like I haven't had that with a lover. That feeling of like, oh, you're my dog. You're my.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like that's a part of the process that is unexpected, but it makes sense, right? This idea that they're built just for you in a way, you know, because I think they're such sponges in terms of knowing you over time and just sort of molding themselves after you, and they start mimicking you in a way, and they sort of read you really well, and they know how to sort of behave around you. So by the time you sort of get used to them, and then by the time they're gone, it's almost like such a shock to the system, because you're just kind of like looking everywhere after they're gone, and you just sort of see all these footprints or fingerprints of just how they're just like have really woven into your everyday life, you know. And I think that part of it is really hard to process, you know.
The podcaster John Lovett said something once about dogs that I think about all the time, which is, as a species, they evolved to be our friends. Evolution that's what their goal through evolution was, to be our friends. I think that's beautiful.
Totally. I think that's a great way to put it. Yeah, for sure.
When casting the dog that played Tanner, were you going for something that looked like Tanner? Like, what was the goal there?
I don't think that was really an option, you know, just in the sense that, and this is like having made films for such a long time in Texas, very indie, very DIY, not really used to this idea of what working on a union production is like.
Yeah.
So Love is my first union.
It's your first union movie. Okay.
Yeah. And so making it in LA and all that kind of stuff, and sort of knowing that like there are certain things that you just have to do by protocol, you know? So this idea like animals, which is like I've always had dogs in my past films, but this idea of like you go to an animal talent agency and go through the sort of portfolio of their talents,
right?
And sort of them coming in, giving you suggestions of like what dog is going to be best for your film in terms of what you require to do them to do in your film. It's like they sort of present that whole thing to you, and you just sort of go through it and find like the dog that sort of visually fits and so forth. But ultimately, it was more about kind of like the dog that is going to be the easiest to work with on our set, you know. So we just picked it on those bases, you know. I think the dogs that we ended up picking were kind of like the best fit for us. But I think ultimately, visually, they work for the film as well.
Yeah, they're great. And Emma's Margaret's character Emma does try to foster a dog at one point. I won't say what happens, but that one's a cutie with that little eye pattern. And so it's adorable. So
cute dog.
You know who else is in the movie is Missy Pyle, an actress that I got to meet and have a little produce a piece that she was a part of. When The Artist was up for Best Picture, Missy Pyle is in the movie The Artist. When it was on the Oscar campaign trail and it ended up winning Best Picture, I was working on Fashion Police with Joan Rivers, and they were trying to find somebody that was connected with one of the nominated films to do a bit, like to do a field piece. So Missy Pyle was game, and the premise was we were going to try to put her in dresses for the Oscars, and Joan Rivers was being funny, and we went to the studio, and she was such a good sport and so fun, and so like her whole thing was like, are you kidding? A chance to do a comedy bit with Joan Rivers? Where do I sign? And then she ended up in like the Bjork swan dress. Like that was one of the bits. I have a picture of me and Joan and Missy Pyle in the swan dress. And anyway, I just thought she was cool and fun, and it was nice to see her. How did she come to be in the movie?
We have mutual friends. Like Clay worked with her on Slash, and you know, Missy is someone that I think I probably have a lot of mutual friends who have worked with her, you know, especially in LA. So just casting that character was very much like she was someone that we thought about by the time we were in pre-production. So then it was just a matter of like reaching out to her and asking my friend Clay to sort of text her to give her a heads up. But I think she kind of embodied the character really well, you know, just in the sense that I think that character is always meant to be a bit like there's a enigma to her that it's like you can't really tell where she's coming from.
She works with this idea. Emma, Margaret's character, at this home furnishings catalog company.
And she also identifies herself as a Christian in the movie. And then so there's all these sort of like, I don't want to say it's like red flags, but there is a sense of like, okay, when people sort of, you know, introduce themselves in that way, you sort of want to see them in a certain way, right?
Right. You think, it's going to drive her away from the protagonist and away from me as an audience member the second she says Christian. And that's not necessarily what happens in her place in the story.
She sort of played like a unexpected sort of priest and role in helping Emma deal with her grief.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they deal with Margaret's grief with her together as friends. And there's another scene later in the movie that has a similar quality, which is they're earnest and they're a little woo-woo. And I think other filmmakers, other actors would be like, oh, we have to undercut this. We have to cut away from this. It's a little bit like the risk of, this could end up being cringe if we're not careful, as the kids say. But you lean into it. You're not afraid of those scenes, and they're beautiful. But can you talk about that idea of like, is this going to play the way we want it to play? Or is it too, I don't know, sentimental, sappy, woo-woo, for lack of a better word?
No, totally. I hear you on it. And it's honestly, it's still, I mean, I appreciate that you
I think other films are afraid to even try that stuff.
Right. It's either like you avoid it or you do it and it's just cranked too much. And then you watch it and you cringe, you know,
because it's a part of life. And it can be very moving. It's not dishonest. It just sometimes in a movie or something, it can play strangely, or we're afraid of being that vulnerable or that corny, I guess, whatever it is. Like, and so but your film had a few of those, and the actors were committed, and you were committed, and they were lovely.
Yeah. I feel like it's ultimately all of that kind of falls under the umbrella of what we're like when we have pets, right? Yeah. Like, I think we become more childlike when we have animals, and we sort of put on these personas around our pets. Yeah. That I think people see from the outside, they would think we're crazy, you know, just speaking to them in funny voices, or even the way Emma sings this really stupid song to her dog and stuff. Yeah. And like, there's all these things that we do that's very much like strictly between us and our pets. Yeah. That's not supposed to be viewed by outside world. But I think so for me, I feel like after I lost Tanner, I was like outwardly more emotional as a person. I wasn't able to keep a lid on it. You know, I wasn't able to sort of like keep it down. Yeah. And so I wanted to take that quality and apply it to the film, because I think,
oh, that's beautiful.
People with animals, and then they watch the film, they'll really get that whole experience, right? And then I think for people who don't have pets or have an aversion of having pets, they may still watch the film in its current way and still feel kind of cringe by it, because they don't really understand what it's like to be in that space, you know? Yeah. So in a way, it's kind of like, for me, I just sort of go for it. Let's just be like emotionally honest about it, you know, because I think ultimately that's like the baseline. We don't have to do too much. We just have to sort of stay in that space, in that rhythm, and it would sort of come across as something that feels very authentic or truthful, you know, and that by itself is enough. It doesn't have to be more. It doesn't have to be less.
I have a song for Enzo that I made up, and I sing it to him. But if I were to put it on film or even sing it now, I would feel incredibly exposed. Yeah. Maybe the lyrics are Enzo the Wonder Dog. He can play. He can eat. That's not even cute. Like, he just eats. Yeah. Like, that's. But I've sung it hundreds of times to him. Hundreds. Yeah. And that's the thing. But if it were exposed or depicted, I would feel like level of difficulty in terms of the falling off the thing into the lake of cringe is 10.10. So I just thought I want to. Those moments worked, and I appreciated them. Let's talk about the actors that play Margaret's daughter and her ex-husband. They're wonderful. Talk to me about the daughter. She was fantastic.
Yeah. Alice Lee is her name, and she's someone that we found through auditions. You know, Charlene was our casting director, and basically we got a bunch of submissions. And Alice was like one of the tapes that really jumped out at us. And then by the time I talked to her, I just really kind of felt like she was right for the part, you know. And yeah, I mean, I think she, you know, she's done a lot of like film and TV, and I just thought she just did such a lovely job in that part, you know. And like I think her character, the daughter character, can sort of easily come across as like a bratty, annoying young person, you know. But I think she infuses it with so much humanity that it's you know, that she kind of like really, really stands out in the movie, even though she's not like a main character, you know. And similarly, I mean, Kenneth Choi, who plays the ex-husband, you know, Kenny's been like a character that, an actor I've been aware of for many years. I mean, he was like such a standout in Wolf of Wall Street, and he's done a lot of like, you know, big films, and he's on 911, the TV show. And Kenny was like very fascinating to me, because when I started talking to him, I was a bit intimidated, because there was like something very tough guy about the roles that he plays that I just assume that that's kind of like what he's like in person, you know? And so by the time he came on board in the film and then we started talking and he started doing his scenes, I just completely saw him differently, you know? And he just put so much into his big moments in a film that you really are struck by kind of like how much emotional and honesty that he brought to it.
Yeah.
You know, like towards the end, the stuff that happens in the diner between him and Margaret and Alice is honestly like, I didn't expect those kind of results on the page.
Interesting. Well, a lot of it is done without dialogue. There's a lot of subtlety in that scene. He has a substance abuse history and abandoned the family when the daughter was younger. And I think the question is forgiveness. Can people forgive people? I think that's what the heart of it is. And the older I get, the more pro forgiveness I am.
Right.
But after we watched it, there was a handful of us watching it in my living room. One person was like, "Why are they still so hung up on the past? Like he was an addict. It was a sickness. Like they need to get over it." And I was like, "No, there was what they went through was trauma. Like, but it got us talking, and not always in agreement about this idea of forgiveness. Is it the right thing to do? It's risky. Yeah. Are they just going to disappoint you again? Like, why was that theme something that you wanted to write about and make this movie about at this time in your life?"
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that's a great question because I don't think neither Clay and I have any sort of personal experiences like that when it comes to parental abandonment, you know, or just sort of losing your parents to addiction, or just this idea of like you kind of don't see them for many years and then they come back into your life, and then how do you pick up the pieces again, if you even pick up the pieces at all. Right. And so much of it was my conversations with a lot of friends who have been through that, you know, and I think it's very similar to the conversation you have with your friends. I think the sort of like the spectrum of forgiveness, if you want to call it that, is very much case by case. You know, I think it has to do the degree of the trauma and abuse and so forth. But I don't think everyone is necessarily open to reconnecting again or to have some form of reconciliation years later, you know, because I think we're all built differently. And I think in the case of the film, I wanted to explore what it looks like if they actually allow themselves to forgive each other, allow themselves to sort of like, let's see if we can build something new from this. Yeah. You know, which is, you know, again, it's an intention on the script and so forth. But then, you know, we flash forward to where we're at with the world today. Yeah. And it's like, I think about what it means right now, right? In terms of like, what do you do with people who are just not on the same page as you in terms of how they view politics, how they view everything in general, you know? And I think for a while, I was definitely in a space during COVID where it was very easy to just be like us versus them, and we're different, and we can never get along and all this kind of stuff. And now I think I've sort of shifted a little bit. I think partly it has to do with aging as well. But I think the thing that I have sort of come to terms with this year is that not engaging with the other party is not an option. Right. You know, I think ultimately it's kind of like, okay, what does it mean? Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but then not communicating with them is not really an option. Yeah, writing them off is not an option. I've thought about the same things as well. Like, I used to think there's, like, if we're two circles, you know, like, say it's liberals or conservatives or whatever, I felt like there was some overlap in the middle where the circles overlapped. And lately I've thought, I don't know if there's any. And what do I do with that idea? And how does that affect the way I move through the world? And do I like not believing that there's any? You know, like when all of these text chains of Republican operatives came out and all of the horrible stuff, I'm like, what species are they? Like,
like maybe we are completely different. Like I can't, like in some of these workplaces on the other side, I just imagine like, do they ever go in and somebody's like, oh, it's Mary, the receptionist's birthday. There's a card in the kitchen. Like you can't even imagine them doing like those sort of everyday things. And they're like, well, wouldn't we want to rape her instead? Like you feel like they can't do cupcakes for the receptionist.
Right.
Like it just like, it's not, I don't know. It's just not their jam. And this other stuff is clearly their jam. I don't know. So I deal with that same thing of like, is there any overlap anymore? What are the common things that we like apart from maybe Dolly Parton? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I wrote a few lines. I love to play this game with filmmakers, where I write down something on my notes while I'm watching it, and then I don't remember why. And then I like to mention it to them and see if they'll spark my memory, and then we can follow up on it. So one thing I wrote down is annoying character actor, but I wrote it in quotes, like somebody said that in a line of dialogue. Does that mean anything to you? No.
Wait, like...
Nobody ever uses the word character actor.
Uh-huh.
It's not in the dialogue. Why did I write that down? I don't know. I don't know. Oh, there's a slash in it, but that doesn't mean anything. Who knows what I wrote? I also wrote down time whooshes right by. Something about the passage of time. And I was like, oh, I relate to that.
Yeah.
So does that ring a bell?
I mean, you touch upon that in talking about your history of Margaret, and then just sort of seeing the film and seeing where she's at, and then she's a grown up daughter in the film and stuff, and this idea of where we're at, right? I mean, like thinking about even the days when I met you.
Yeah.
It's like that wasn't that long ago,
right?
And then it's like, no, it was like a long fucking time ago. I think the idea of just sort of like having to go through a 2-step thing where you're like, oh, it was recent. And then, no, it's not. It's like,
right. And you've made a number of films in that time. And I've done different things as well. And I know you also do beautiful graphic design. You design movie posters. That's still part of your life. Did you do your own poster for this movie?
I did. I mean, it's kind of funny just in the sense
the font.
Thank you. I'm really glad that you liked it because most of the time when you work with distributors, by the time you turn over your assets, you just assume that the poster design is one of the things they're going to shoot down because it's not deemed commercially viable enough.
This is what worked before for us, and we like this, and Like for a while, every comedy had yellow font. Every broad comedy had a yellow font.
You're going to have the generic comedy. Yeah. But I'm glad that they kept this one.
Yeah, it's lovely. For a lot of my career, when I would see people who did filmmaking or did singing or whatever, but had other jobs, I would always sort of go, I bet they wish they could do the other thing all the time. Mm-hmm. And now I realize, no, they were the smart ones. That's the move. Have the other thing. That's how you keep going. I mentioned this not that long ago on the podcast, but I interviewed a director earlier this year who directed the movie A Nice Indian Boy. 6 months out of the year, he's a surgeon, a cancer surgeon at a hospital back east. And then he makes films the rest of the time. And he has a life. Wow. I think that's the move. If some young person said, how do I make it? I'm like, find the other thing. Don't wish you weren't doing the other thing. Yeah. The other thing is going to allow you to stick it out. Thoughts?
Yes, 100% agree with what you said. I mean, I didn't realize it was a cancer surgeon. That's wild. That's almost
like Sloan Kettering. I could be wrong about the hospital. Like a big hospital. We talk about it in my podcast. I'll send you the link. But
but that makes complete sense because I mean, this idea of having this thing that is sustainable is so important because I feel like in this sort of post-strike, post-everything.
It's harder, and it was always a long shot.
Yeah, it's even in some ways even more challenging now than ever before. Yeah. So this other sort of like thing that sort of keeps you afloat is so important. I sort of I don't sort of look at my career in a way where I feel like, oh, doesn't it suck that you can't make a living from directing?
Yeah.
I just tell myself, no, you're very lucky that you can design posters for other people. So it allows you to take off time to direct whenever you want to.
Yeah.
No.
It worked out. The balance works out. Also, like, I just think visually it must be creative and exciting to do the design stuff that you're doing. And also to sort of lift up other filmmakers. Like, it's connected to what you do, you know?
Yeah. No, totally. But also I think, for me, the other sort of, unexpected perk about designing for other people is that, there's a lot of opportunities to talk to other producers and directors, and you sort of, as a result of that, you hear about their journey and their experiences about how they made their stuff and what kind of challenges they overcame and all that kind of stuff. And I think all those things is always, for me, it always feels very encouraging, you know, because I think so much of what we do is always very like kind of soul-sucking in a way, where it's always like, oh, there's a lot of rejections, there's a lot of just people telling things. And so hearing other people's sort of stories about how they overcome theirs or sort of dealt with their setbacks, like really, you know, it just made me feel like, oh, maybe you can sort of figure out how to do yours in a different way and so forth, you know. So I think in that sense, I'm very grateful that I get to like talk with other people on that level too.
Yeah, it's a kind of community that you're part of. What poster that you did has probably been the most exposed, or the most successful movie, or the one that people are like, oh yeah, I remember that?
Oh gosh. I mean,
are some of your favorites, or some of your
I mean, okay, I would say this one is a funny one because I don't think it's like one of the most random ones, because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's like kind of everywhere in a way. But so I designed for Duplass Brothers horror sort of IP called Creep.
Yeah.
CREEP.
Yeah.
And it's like a found footage sort of thing. And now it's like went from Creep 1, 2, 3 to a TV series now. I think they're just season 2 on Shudder. So the Creep title treatment is my handwriting.
That's amazing.
So, because one of the things I picked when I designed the poster, the very first poster, I was like, we should do a handwriting instead of a font.
Yeah.
And so I just drew this really sort of raw, crass handwriting. And the P is like an X, basically. That's a hand-drawn X. And so now Creep, that title.
Your handwriting is everywhere on all the.
My handwriting is everywhere. It's on VODs.
That's an amazing thing.
Creep, it's on this really Creep. Like I can't remember who put out like this box set of the 3 movie, and it's like my handwriting's on the cover.
Yeah. Mark Duplass is one of my heroes, and I got to tell him so.
Good.
He hangs out at Vidiot's, where I like to go in LA and see movies. And he gave this speech once. I don't even remember who it was to. It was like a graduating class or the Austin Film Festival or somewhere. But he kept saying that, you know, the cavalry isn't coming.
Yeah,
in other words, you got to do it. Nobody's coming to do anything for you. Yeah. You got to do it. And I think about that a lot. And I got to tell him that meant something to me at Vidiot's once. I was like, I'm going to tell him that I appreciate it. So, and he was gracious and nice about it. And now he's on the morning show in a plot that I'm not sure about, but that's what happens with those shows.
Yeah.
What are they like, the Duplass brothers? I think they're sort of like heroes of indie people that are trying to make their own stuff. Like they're very inspiring people.
They also have Austin roots, you know, and I think it's one of those things like with them, you know, it's kind of like along with, you know, Mark's speech about that, like it's both comforting that like that sort of like they're still on this, like even now that they're established, they're still sort of doing this thing where they kind of have to get their own stuff going, you know, otherwise it's kind of like if they sit around waiting for yeses, it's not going to happen. But it's also kind of depressing in the sense that, so even after so many years of being in the business, it's not like it gets easier.
There's times in my own little media empire of whatever I'm doing where sometimes I think, do I have to do every goddamn thing myself? Yeah. Yes, you do. Yes. That's the answer. Yes. Right? I'm sure you have those thoughts too on set and things like that sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I would say thankfully less and less as I get older, meaning the sort of feeling a sense.
And I'm not saying that I do that. I do have help, but it is that feeling of that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you're saying less and less as you get older. I think that's beautiful.
Less feeling resentful about it.
Yeah.
I think I get more humble as I get older, which is kind of like, just be grateful that you're still doing this.
Yeah.
And nobody fucking owes you anything either, you know?
As we've gotten more into streaming and TikTok and all of those things, I'm one of those fuddy-duddies that are like, I remember the video store and wouldn't it be fun to go to Tower Records and look at CD, all that stuff. But I do think there's something about a movie that once it exists, you can't negate it. Like, it is there, especially if there's a physical copy on a video store shelf. And in a way that social media content isn't. It's just not. You could be the best TikToker in the world, but that stuff evaporates. Nobody ever says, I was in a bad place and I pulled your movie off the shelf and it got me through it. Like, there's something about movies specifically that I don't think these new medias are ever going to come close to in terms of what they mean to people. Right? Nobody's going to do a Lifetime Achievement Award to that dance influencer on TikTok that threw cereal around his kitchen, who I love and is amazing. You know what I'm saying? But it evaporates, right? And movies are forever, especially if they connect, right?
Yeah. I think media definitely has an element of like making a comeback, and I think it's very nice that younger people, the younger generation, is appreciating physical media and wanting to collect stuff and have it, But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I think always I wonder where like Instagram stories go to where eventually
nowhere.
Instagram stories, or they just evaporate into the air.
Right. It's like if you do, it's the Instagram Awards, the person that did the best on stories, we're going to show you some clips. A, they either don't exist, or B, we don't care. Like they don't endure in a way. Anyway, I don't know. This is so old fuddy-duddy thoughts of mine. I like to ask filmmakers some random movie questions. What's the first movie you remember seeing in a theater?
Bambi.
Wow, that's a tragic one. What do you remember about the experience?
I mean, I remember the mom died, and it was very upsetting. And it's like my mom took me to that movie.
Oh, shit.
And now that I'm talking about it, I feel like that was kind of like my origin story.
Right. Really interesting.
Yeah, just in the sense that I think that was the fact that my mom took me to a movie where the mom dies very quickly in the film is psychologically, it's very fascinating, because I think my mom and I have this very sort of like very similar sensibilities. Yeah. There's this like what would I call it? Kind of like a baseline of melancholia that we are very similar in, And I think the fact that we watched that film and that happened is interesting.
Yeah. What movie scared the pants off you? Speaking of Halloween.
I would say scared the pants off me. My brother rented The Evil Dead VHS and I watched it when I was 7 or 8, and it completely traumatized me. Like, I was just like, I'm not supposed to be watching this at my age. But here's a fun fact. And I feel like I need to look her name up, just so I feel like I need to give her a shout out. So speaking about the diner scene in All That We Love, see, this is why, I mean, you're kind of a genius that you set your interviews up this way. And it's kind of like now we have a complete full circle moment about me being traumatized by Evil Dead. And then,
right. And then makes it
that person in All That We Love.
Yeah.
So the waitress who is in the diner scene, Betsy Baker is her name, the actor's name. She was in The Evil Dead.
Wow.
And that traumatized me. And Betsy was the first girl who turned which is the pencil girl.
So how did she end up in your movie? Did you I want the girl from Evil Dead?
This was like a casting. We were just kind of like casting for these sort of day players.
Yeah.
And I remember our casting director was like, "Oh, just cast her. She's like a pro.
Yeah.
She can all these things like without any effort." So of course the whole Evil Dead thing was like a lovely surprise, and of course I was like, "Let's cast her."
Right? No, because it has a sentimental thing. It's connected. Did you talk to her about it when you were on set, or were you?
Yes,
too
I
busy?
did. I told her after we wrapped her day. I was just kind of like terrifying me as a kid. She was like, "You watch it when you were 7?"
Yeah, it's a little young. It's a little young. What movie have you seen the most times?
Oh, I mean, this is not a surprise, and this is pretty much like my most revealing gay card. And I just went to see her at the 30th anniversary thing. I think I've seen Showgirls at least 20 times, if not more.
Amazing. So you went to the thing in Austin with Elizabeth Berkley.
To the Elizabeth Berkley thing, yeah.
Yeah, I love that she's embraced it and is like when she gives these speeches, it's very moving because she's been through some stuff.
Empowering, very moving. Yeah, totally.
I love it. I love it. But you've gone back 20 times. That's amazing.
I've never seen it at theater until this time. This was the first time I watched it with an audience.
Wow.
But before that, it was just like watching it on streaming or on video. But then I think because there was like certain comfort movies that I would go to during COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I watched Showgirls probably half of those times during the COVID years.
Wow.
Just to cope with the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, also the last 10 years, I mean, for the first part of my experience with Showgirls, I always thought it was a little exaggerated how awful the bad guys are. But the lesson of the last 10 or 15 years the bad guys are way worse than we ever dreamed. And so all of the horrible behavior by men in the movie, I feel like, oh yeah, that is really how it is. Esther House, it was a documentary. They are that rapey and horrible, right? And And so I have a different lens for it now. But Nomi survives.
So this is a really funny thing that happened in the Showgirl screening that I just went to.
Yeah.
Because it was a very verbal crowd. People were screaming.
Oh, I'm sure.
And making all kinds of noises, stomping their feet and stuff. And then we come to that really the moment when it gets really dark and serious, which is the Molly rape scene, right?
Yeah.
The best friend. And everyone was dead quiet through that scene, right? And then by the time that Nomi comes around and kicks the guy's ass.
Yep, with the fingernails.
Yeah, with fingernails. Everyone was just like cheering on.
Yeah.
And at the end of the scene, somebody screamed out, "Release the tapes."
Yes, it's the same feeling. It's the same thing. It is. Yeah. It's the same type of man that we thought was an exaggeration in Showgirls. They're running the show now, literally. I like that play on words. If it was in text, that would be like so satisfying. And this was a delightful conversation. I have one more question for you, but first tell people what you want them to know about your movie, how they can see it. This is going to drop right before the Outfest thing. So,
okay, great. Awesome. Yeah. So, there's the Outfest screening on November 6th, that you can go to Outfest website to see if you can get tickets still. Otherwise, it's opening in just like a very small theatrical release. I know New York and LA are 2 confirmed cities. I don't know about what the other 3 cities are yet. I think there's like 5 cities in total on November 6th. But then it's also going to be on VOD on November 7th. I'm sorry. November 7th is a Friday. November 6th is the Outfest screening. November 7th is when the movie is available.
Fantastic. So people can check it out. If you're in LA, come to the Outfest screening. Here's my final question. You do your other things and then you make a movie and, it takes a while sometimes. Why do you keep making them? Do you ever feel like, oh, I can just stop and do my posters and stuff? What keeps you going back to that kind of, it's in a way it's torture because it's hard to get them made sometimes, I think, but you keep doing it and I admire it.
I mean, great question. I would say, I mean, as this is part of the evolution of that comes with aging, right? Like this sort of emotional maturity that we arrive in at our age. And I think for me, it's very much about, similarly to this idea of like, you cannot not engage with people who have different belief system as you.
Right.
That's not an option. Quitting what I'm doing is not an option.
Right.
Like, it's kind of at a certain point, we put so many years in already, you know, and it's kind of like, what are you going to do? You're not going to do it. It's like, is that an option? It's like, no, it's not an option.
No, it's not an option. You're just going to keep going. Isn't it hard? Yeah. But it's meaningful, right?
Exactly.
And, yeah. What's your favorite?
Right. As long as it's meaningful, then you should keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of making the movies? What's the part where you're doing it? You're like, yes, this.
I think there's some sort of some level of catharsis. Wait, why am I pronouncing the word wrong?
Catharsis?
Catharsis. Yes, catharsis. That comes from the experience of making the film itself, and also sharing the film with other people, and then talking about the film with them afterwards.
Right.
That sort of whole exchange to me always feels magical when it happens. You know, this idea of just like reflecting, right? Like you sort of write something and you direct it, and you sort of see how people make their interpretations, and then it becomes something else. And then by the time it like is seen by other people and they talk to you about it or how they react to it, it becomes something else. Yeah. You know, like this sort of like this sort of ongoing effect that happens with how your work is just sort of shapes and reshapes itself, you know, is I can never get tired of it, because every time it happens, it's like, oh, this feels like the first time. It feels very surprising, and it feels very fulfilling.
Yeah, I love that. Great note to end on. Everybody needs to watch it, All That We Love. And if you're in LA, come to Outfest. It'll be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. So you're coming out, obviously, for the festival.
I'll come up with Outfest screenings. I will be.
All right, I love it. All right, this was a pleasure, Yen. Congratulations on your beautiful movie.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Yen Tan. Check out his beautiful movie, All That We Love. It's at Outfest on November 6th, and then it opens beyond in different cities and on streaming after that. All right, so this happened. As I've mentioned before, I started taking this playwriting class at the Wilgere Theatricum Botanicum. So I'm very into plays. I always have enjoyed them, but now I'm thinking about them more. I'm like, how did they write that? And, you know, what were they writing about? Like, I just started looking at them a little bit differently. So I saw a wonderful play this week called Outside Mullingar by John Patrick Shanley. It's being done at the Skylight Theater in Los Feliz in Los Angeles, and it's so good. It's set in Ireland. It's these two neighboring farms. It's a bit of a love story. It's kind of quirky. There's some surprising things that happen, but it's also very human, and I was very moved by it. And of course I cried. I cry at the drop of a hat, by the way. I think we've established that. The other thing I want to mention is I guested on a podcast. I know these gals named Danielle Koenig and Chris Kimmel. They used to work on a show called The Dish with my roommate Tony Tripoli, and my current roommate Penelope Lombard worked on that show. And I got to fill in for a couple weeks, and I got to meet them. So anyway, they host a show called How to Survive. And it's basically how to survive, you know, whatever the story is. So they'll have a guest on that tells a story, and they talk about how to survive it, you know. And so I was flattered and honored that they asked me to do it. And the story that I told is how to survive a Madonna dance audition. And I talk about how I auditioned for Blonde Ambition in 1990, and I was a huge fan, and I didn't get it, but she was there, and I got to see her, and I ended up writing a story about my audition, and that led to my writing career. And I just go through my whole sort of Madonna dance writing history, how it all kind of weaves in and out of different eras. And I told them as I sat down, I said, you know, I cry all the time on my podcast. I might cry. And they both looked at me like, what? Like, no, we don't do that. That's not a thing. sure enough, I got to the part where I talked about going to see Madonna in concert a couple of years ago, the most recent one, the Celebration Tour, and how moving it was, and I could barely get a word out. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's bad, though. I'm just like, it's a raw time. I think the emotions are right there on the surface. And so I was happy to be on that podcast. It was really fun, and I think it drops this week. It may already be out as you hear this. It's called How to Survive, and you can get it anywhere you get your podcast. So, all right, that's enough for this week. I want to give a shout out to Oscar Rosario for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Placement Music. We'll catch you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye.